Hello, good evening, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to another session of the Hindu News Analysis, and this is Shyam Kagod here, taking up the analysis for 27th January 2026. Now, before I start the session, those present, please let me know that I'm audible and visible for all of you. Those present in the session, please do let me know. Am I audible and visible for all of you? Great. Thanks a lot. Let's start. So, in today's session, I've taken a total of 10 articles, all of them from the Delhi edition of Hindu newspaper. The discussion will be comprehensive, covering articles from Indian economy, polity, international relations, etc., which will help you answer the questions in the prelims as well as mains examination. If you're liking the sessions, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Now, before I start, here is a very important announcement. A lot of aspirants who are preparing for the civil services do not clear the examination because they do not have the right guidance. They do not know how to approach the different subjects. They are worried whether to join the online or offline because they have weighed the pros and cons of both of these particular program. They do not have a structured program, right reading material. They do not have the opportunity to interact with the faculties and get the doubts clear. All of these will be resolved. There is one program that the Unacademy has launched, Unacademy Platinum. And starting tomorrow, 28th, new batch is going to be launched. If you want to experience the Unacademy Platinum class, all you need to do is there is a link provided in the description of this particular video. Use the link, register for this class, and tomorrow Mukesh sir, starting from 7 p.m., is going to take up these particular topics for the discussion on the Unacademy Platinum platform. Do not miss out. The registration link is provided in the description part of the video. Now, let me start the discussion. The first article, playing hide and seek on unemployment guarantees. In the last 1.5 months, there has been a lot of discussion associated with one of the initiatives of the Government of India. The Government of India took earlier existing initiative, that is Manrega. The initiative, the act is Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, rebranded, changed certain provisions, and called the new initiative as VB Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Gramin. In a nutshell, they call this as VBG Ramji. Again, you may like the name, right? Dislike the name, doesn't matter. What are the important points discussed in the article? And this has been there in the discussion for the last 1.5 months. Now, what is the argument put forward by the Government of India? Why this kind of a rebranding, or let's say the change in the name or recalling the old initiative? Why was it done by the government? The government simply argues that the earlier initiative was introduced mid 2000, right? Mid 2000, that is more than 20 years old. So when you implement an initiative which is very, very old, that is 2 decades old, the initiative does not represent what is the current situation in the rural market. Everybody is okay? The initiative does not represent and does not address what are the current issues, the current problems in the rural market. So that is one very important, let's say, the argument put forward. In addition to this, the other arguments are the Manrega scheme. Essentially, under that, the expenditure have got concentrated in some of the highly developed states. There are certain highly developed states which are better in terms of performance of GDP, in terms of performance of development indicators, etc. So more and more funds are getting concentrated in some of the developed states. And obviously, to a certain extent, the argument is true because a lot of these particular funds are getting concentrated in some of the southern developed states. That was the second argument. The third argument put forward by the government is there is a problem with disentitlement provision. Right? Listen to me carefully. Disentitlement provision. The argument of the government is that the disentitlement provision under the earlier Manrega initiative or Manrega Act was hurting the workers. was against the workers. What is the basic argument of disentitlement provision? Under Manrega Act, let's say it was a demand driven act. I hope all of you heard of this. It was a demand driven initiative. What used to happen? Let's say I have a job card. I will apply for work under Manrega. If I'm not allocated work, I repeat, if I'm not allocated work for 15 days after the application through the job card, there would be certain allowances given to me. Some amount of allowances would be given to me. That is basically provision under the Manrega. Now, there was a concern that the government earlier was concerned that many of the people would abuse this particular provision. What do you mean by abuse the provision? Let's say I've applied for a job under Manrega. The government or the local administration has offered a job to me, that is wage opportunity to me, but I'll simply reject it. Right? Although the offer is there, I'll reject it. And when I reject, automatically after 15 days, I become entitled for this particular wages. So to plug this particular loophole, the earlier governments basically introduced an amendment, introduced a provision. And under the provision, whenever the job is offered and it is within the vicinity of 5 kilometers from your home, if you reject this particular wage opportunity, then you will not be entitled for these kind of allowances. Right? And this was applicable for a certain time period. So the government basically stated, the current government stated that if it is, let's say exactly around 5 kilometers, why should the worker go up to 5 kilometers then? And this particular provision is going to hurt the workers. And that was one of the reasons to basically argue against the disentitlement provision. And the government has removed the disentitlement provision under the new law, that is under G. Ramji Bill or basically Act. The fourth important concern that was raised by the government is the usage of technology. That is, although multiple forms of technologies were introduced, there was abuse of the initiative. Abuse in the sense, in many of the instances, there was seen the attendance was not marked properly. In fact, I'm pretty sure all of you heard of the NMMS app. NMMS app. Under this particular app, the attendance registration was supposed to be done. Those who are present for the work, they were supposed to be, let's say the attendance of these workers was supposed to be registered through the app. But there has been collusion. It has been seen that many of the workers are not present. Even then, they have been marked present. And the funds through this have been allocated and the misusing has happened. And another concern raised by the government was what kind of projects were implemented. The kind of projects which were implemented, there was no, let's say auditing. Although there was a provision under Manrega for social auditing of the projects. So government was also concerned about the kind of the projects that were undertaken under Manrega. And finally, the sixth one, the government argued that because we are implementing Manrega, the people who are working in the agriculture field would be attracted with the higher wages under Manrega. And because there was no, let's say the time period or the classification of, let's say the pauses that were supposed to be implemented. The work was supposed to be paused under Manrega. All of these were not implemented properly, as a result of which the agriculture labor was also affected. Because rather than working in the agriculture field, lot of the labor was diverted, was used under Manrega, which affected agriculture production. So these are various concerns that were raised by the government, and as a result of this, the government has replaced Manrega with a new initiative, G. Ramji, that is VB G. Ramji initiative. Now, what are the important, let's say points associated with that? Under this, the government simply says, rather than providing 100 days of work, earlier under Manrega, we used to provide statutory 100 days of work. Rather than providing 100 days of work, now we are going to increase it to 125 days of work, 125 days of work. In addition to this, we are going to ensure that there will be a pause which will be implemented during the cultivation cycles. In the agriculture, during certain time period, you require large amount of labor during harvesting season, during sowing season. So we will find out these kind of time periods and we are going to impose the pauses. Mandatory pauses in the working will be implemented so that the labor will be available for, right, let's say the agriculture work. In addition to this, there are multiple other initiatives or let's say the provisions of the scheme. For example, funding. These are the two most important. For example, funding. Until now, the funding for wages, listen to me carefully, for wages under Manrega, the funding was only provided by the central government. Now the government of India has changed the funding pattern of the scheme. Rather than 100% being provided by the central government, now the funding will be 60:40 split between the center as well as the state respectively. Respectively, center and state, it will be 60:40. So multiple changes have been introduced, right? And this government says will help us in better implementation of Manrega. Now, against these kind of arguments, there is a counter argument given in the article. Is everybody okay? There is a counter argument given in the article. The article basically criticizes the G Ramji initiative. Now, rather than simply criticizing, what I've done is I've given you one side of the argument. Now, I'll give you other side of the argument so that you have a balanced argument. You should have a balanced argument always. Why? You want to become a civil servant at the end of the day. So what is the counterpoint? Point number one. If you wanted to increase the number of working days from 100 to 125, if you want to increase the number of working days from 100 to 125, you could have easily done by making changes under Manrega Act. Simple. By making changes under Manrega Act. There is a very famous statement. Focus on the statement, not on the person who has stated that, and don't use that to label me. There's a very famous statement associated with this. The color of the cat does not matter as long as it catches mice. I'll repeat the statement. The color of the cat does not matter as long as it catches mice. So the argument here is, if you want to increase the statutory entitlement under the Manrega, rather than introducing a new initiative, make changes under Manrega. And as such, there were already multiple states which have increased the allocation of number of working days. Of course, the expenditure was borne by the states in those particular cases. So argument is, you could have simply increased it by making changes under Manrega. That is first one. Second one, talk about expenditure. Talk about expenditure. Now, you are basically saying the expenditure will be controlled. How? You have introduced a new system, listen to me, normative expenditure process. Normative expenditure process, normative allocation. Right, what is this normative allocation? Earlier I said Manrega is a demand-based initiative. Meaning what? At the level, at district level, we are going to find out how many number of working days are demanded by the people who are having job cuts. According to that, we will allocate the work and expenditure will be incurred. As a result of this, many of the times, the total amount of allocation that was done during the budget and expenditure that was incurred actually throughout the financial year was different. The total expenditure incurred because of this kind of an initiative or this kind of a provision was much higher compared to allocation done under the budget. Everybody is able to understand? That is basically the meaning of a demand-driven initiative. But under the new methodology, the government simply says, we are going to have normative allocation process. Meaning what? In the budget, the government will announce how much expenditure will be done under G Ramji. And now the government will basically use this expenditure to allocate to different states expenditure which shall be incurred for implementation of the projects under G Ramji. Meaning what? What if the total amount of expenditure allocated is exhausted, let's say in 9 months. It is exhausted in 10 months. It is exhausted, let's say in 8 months. Now the government will not increase the allocation. Rather, the implementation has to be done within the same amount of money that has been allocated. This government argues which it will help in better monitoring of the project, better allocation of the projects, because under this the government is going to allocate the funds for different states. It will also ensure some of the states which are poor will be allocated more projects compared to the states which are, let's say, which were getting more funds under Manrega. But the counter argument to this is, yes, on paper this will increase the process, it will make the process transparent, efficient. But look at the outcome. If you basically say the GRAMG projects have to be implemented and this is the amount of, right, let's say wages that will be paid in this year. That means if it is exhausted after 9 months, if the workers want to work, funds are not available. Correct? The funds are not available. And if the funds are not available, work would not be allocated. So here is a counter argument. In that case, how can you basically say, right, this is going to provide entitlement to the workers? How can you guarantee 125 working days in a year? What if this worker has got only 75 working days as of now? Another 50 days are left out. Essentially remaining, right, another 50 days, essentially remaining 50 days, work will not be allocated. So the argument is, on paper you say you are going to guarantee 125 days. That is a statutory guarantee. But because of the funding process that you have implemented, you may not be able to meet that particular guarantee. That is the second important criticism. The third very important criticism is technology, usage of technology. The government simply says, under the GRAMG, we are going to leverage technology. We are going to implement technology in order to audit, right? In order to, let's say, implement the scheme effectively, in order to keep the attendance, in order to, right, let's say, monitor the assets, etc. The counter argument is, this was present in the earlier Manrega as well. Correct? All of you able to understand? This was present, this initiative was present earlier under Manrega as well. So in what way this is an improvement? Like I said earlier, under Manrega, there was an app that was introduced because it was found that there is a, right, abuse of the system. App attendance or app-based attendance was introduced. Even that was abused. So in what way the attendance, the implementation of the projects will be much better compared to, right, Manrega under GRAMG? There is no clarity. What if the same system will be continued? So argument will be the same again. What has improved? Except the rebranding exercise, what actually has improved? Everybody is able to understand the criticism against the GRAMG initiative of the union government? Please do let me know in the chat section right now. So there is a pro, there is a, right, the cons as well, right? So please be very careful about the initiative. Now, based on this, please solve the question and tell me what is the answer quickly. Consider the following statements regarding VB GRAMG scheme. 100% of the funding will be borne by the central government. The scheme mandates pause of 60 days during the peak agriculture season. The scheme makes 125 days the standard statutory entitlement. How many of the three statements are true? Please do let me know. Some of you are saying option A, some of you are saying option B. Okay, option A and option B. Let's go forward. 100% of the funding will be borne by the central government. This is straightforward incorrect. It is incorrect. Okay. The scheme mandates pause of 60 days during the peak agriculture season. Yes. Right. The pause that has been provided is 60 days. But again, 60 days, the UPSC might tweak the statement. 60 days in one shot? No. Not 60 days in one shot. Cumulatively 60 days. All of you are able to understand this? Cumulatively 60 days. And who is going to decide this particular 60 days cumulatively, the time period? The state government. Not the center. The state government will decide how many days, that is the 60 days of pause during the peak agriculture season. The scheme makes 125 days the standard statutory entitlement. I've told you this. Yes, 100 days under Manrega, 125 days under GRAMG. So second and third statement are true. Right option is option B. Only two of the three statements are correct. Now, There is also a question for you to practice mains answer writing. There is also a question for you to practice mains answer writing. Employment guarantee is not merely a poverty alleviation tool, but a social protection instrument. Discuss in the context of proposed changes under G Ramji scheme or G Ramji initiative. Done? Right, so please practice mains answer writing. As I've told yesterday, I'm repeating it this today, and I'll tell you again when I take Hindu. Practice mains answer writing, because the toughest of the three phases, according to me, is the mains answer writing. Okay, let's go forward. Before that, curious learner is asking, what is the normative expenditure? Listen to me very carefully. In 1 minute, I'll explain. Earlier, here is a worker. Worker will demand the work. Right? The job card is there. They will demand the work, and the work would be allocated, and this would be collected. This kind of demand would be collected from all the areas like this, and the work would be allocated. This is basically demand driven initiative. Now under G Ramji, center will allocate funds under budget, and from the budget, that is the money which has been allocated, the center will decide how much funds will go to what kind of projects and which states. Now some amount is allocated to the state. From this amount, now the projects have to be implemented. The amount shall be utilized which is allocated under the budget, which is decided by the center, given to the state, that shall be utilized to implement the projects under G Ramji. So don't you think there is a difference in how the funds were allocated, projects were implemented under Manrega as well as G Ramji? Okay, let's go forward. Next article. How will US exit affect the International Solar Alliance? Now back in the year 2015, during COP21, Conference of Parties 21, that was held in France. During the COP21, that is in 2015, there was a new initiative, intergovernmental initiative, that is International Solar Alliance, ISA, International Solar Alliance, which was launched. Initially, the objective was to cover the member countries which will lie between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. And what is the argument? Argument is simple. The number of solar days experienced by these particular countries would be very, very high. And because they will have very high number of solar days, they can harness this particular sunlight, produce electricity. Initially, that was the objective. But later on, the membership has been opened up to many other countries. Right? It has been opened up to all the United Nations members now. Now, what is the connection? Very recently, the government of USA has announced that it will be exiting, United States of America will be exiting, moving out of more than 66 international organizations. From 66 organizations, it is going to withdraw. Now, as a result of this particular withdrawal, out of 66, one of them is International Solar Alliance. Right? Argument is, what is going to be the impact? What is going to be the impact? Will it hurt International Solar Alliance? That is the debate which has been provided here. What are the points? Let's go one by one. Since the implementation, since the launch back in the year 2015, I said more than 100 countries have become members of International Solar Alliance. And the International Solar Alliance, the headquarters of it, the headquarters of the ISA, right, is located in India, because it was India which introduced or basically pitched the idea of ISA. So far so good, right? So this is the first international organization to have its headquarters in India. Now USA joined a bit late. Post 2020, that is in 2021, United States of America joined as member. And whenever these member countries are there and the organizations are made, generally the argument is funding will be done by all the member countries. Funding has to be provided by all the member countries. Now, United States of America used to contribute, right? The funding which has been provided by it is around 1% out of the total funding that is raised by the ISA. It is around 1% of the total funding. Now, the government of USA has announced that it is going to withdraw from ISA. So, what is going to be the impact? Will it hurt the projects being implemented? the initiatives being undertaken by International Solar Alliance. Point number one, the ISA, right? Essentially, you can divide the projects which are being implemented by ISA in India as well as outside India. Is it okay? Simple. Let's understand from the viewpoint of this. In India, what is going to be the impact? And outside India, what is going to be the impact? Within India, the experts argue the impact of US withdrawal will be minimal, negligible. I'll repeat this. The withdrawal of USA from the International Solar Alliance on whatever is being implemented in India, it is going to be negligible. It is not going to hurt the implementation of the projects under India. What is the reason? Point number one, whenever a member country withdraws, of course, yes, if it is a very large country, very influential country, it will hurt, right? Let's say the organization. It is going to hurt the organization. But USA, when it withdrew from the WHO, the amount of funding that they used to provide was much, much higher. But here, the amount of funding they are providing is very minimal. Is the point clear to all of you? The funding they are providing is very minimal. So the impact in terms of raising the funds, the amount of funds that can be raised, etc., it is going to be very negligible. Point number one. Point number two, when you look at the projects which are being implemented under solar energy, you require, right, let's say raw material. You require solar cells. You require solar panels, etc. USA doesn't account for majority of the production, is not a global leader. Who is the global leader in terms of producing solar cells and solar panels? China is the global leader. It accounts for more than 70%. Is India a competitor? Of course, yes. India is a very good competitor right now, because there was a point of time where everything that was required, or most of what was required in terms of solar cells, solar panels, etc., we used to import it from China. Most of it we used to import it from China. But from that particular position, today, India has huge quantity of production of solar panels. Have a look at the data that is provided in the article. India's solar module manufacturing capacity is close to 144 gigawatts now. 144 gigawatts. So we have a huge amount of capacity to produce solar panels. But here is a problem. There is a problem here as well. What is the problem? To manufacture the solar panels, you require cells. Is it okay? To manufacture solar panels, you require cells. A lot of quantity of the solar cells, we are import dependent as of now. We are import dependent. And when you look at the data, you will realize that we can manufacture solar modules of capacity 144 gigawatts. But solar cell capacity is around 25 gigawatts, which means remaining 100 plus gigawatts of solar panels are manufactured by importing solar cells. So the government of India has already proposed initiatives such as ALMM, approved list of module manufacturing, in order to promote solar cells in the domestic market. But anyways, it is between India and China now. The debate is between India and China. What would be the impact of US withdrawal from this? It is negligible. USA doesn't account for the supply of the solar panels. USA doesn't account for supply of solar cells also. So even if they withdraw, the implementation will not be hurt. The third important point, in India we are implementing the projects. The funding is being provided by banks in India. International agencies are providing the funding. And the funding is based on the confidence of the investors. Simple. The funding or the investment that is happening in the solar energy sector in India, it is dependent on the investor confidence. Because the government of India for the last couple of years has been promoting the idea of renewable energy in India. For example, government of India set up a target of making India the zero emission, net zero emission by 2070. And in order to achieve that, it has promoted multiple initiatives, including solar energy. Initially, our target for solar energy or the renewable energy, initially the target was 175 gigawatts by 2022. But today the target has been increased by a huge number, 500 gigawatts by, right, let's say 2030. But at the same point of time, initiatives are being implemented. And that has attracted a lot of investor confidence. So withdrawal of USA will not hurt employment generation in India related to solar projects, will not hurt investments, will not hurt supply of raw materials or the components that are needed for the implementation of the projects. Now, what about the projects which are being implemented outside India? That's a different story altogether. For example, lot of the projects are being promoted by International Solar Alliance. Somebody was asking, what is the role of ISA? It promotes implementation of the projects. It promotes, right, let's say, financing of the projects. In fact, the ISA has a target of raising funds to the tune of $1 trillion by 2030. Right? Argument is simple. We are going to promote these kind of projects across multiple countries. So come to the point here, in the context of outside India, if you look at African countries which require a lot of assistance, where a lot of projects have been proposed and are being implemented, the withdrawal of USA is going to hurt these projects. Reason being, USA is one of the major countries, not a donor here, but a major country. And the presence of a major country in the organization which is promoting projects in, right, let's say, weaker countries, in poorer countries, will improve the confidence, will basically promote investor confidence, investor participation. But suddenly if USA withdraws in that particular region, the major economy has withdrawn from the initiative. That might hurt the investor confidence as well as the implementation of the projects under International Solar Alliance in that region. Everybody is okay with the discussion? Can I move on to the next article here? Please do let me know. Now, associated with this, here is an MCQ. Please solve the MCQ and tell me the answer very quickly. Consider the following statements regarding International Solar Alliance, ISA. It is the first intergovernmental authority headquartered in India. The membership is open only to the countries lying between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. And the third one, it was launched at COP21, Conference of Parties 21. How many of the three statements are true? What is the key answer? Tell me very quickly. Option B. Option B, option A. Again, option A. Some of you are saying A, some of you are saying B. Let's start. It is the first intergovernmental authority headquartered in India. Yes. The membership is open only to the countries lying between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. No, this has been opened up. It was launched at COP21, Conference of Parties 21, in the year 2015. That is Paris climate. Right? Yes, the statement is true. Right? So first statement is correct. Third statement is correct. Right option for the question is option B. Right option is option B. Okay. Pavanisri initially had chosen option D. After I solve, suddenly she deleted the message. Don't worry. Attempt is important. Okay, let's go forward. Next article, cybercrime and a global governance crisis. Right? What are the important points associated with this? Listen to me carefully. There are two important aspects which are discussed in the article. Two important aspects. One, what is happening to global governance? The global governance is in crisis. For example, yesterday I told you, the international order which was established after the Second World War and which was led by USA, it is undergoing a huge shift now, tectonic shift now, huge shift. Many of the countries which were earlier allies of USA have started moving away. Many of the countries which were considered to be adversaries for USA are moving right closer to USA. There is a huge shift that is happening. So that is one aspect that is being discussed. And the second aspect is important for the prelims examination. There is a convention in United Nations. United Nations Convention against Cybercrime. United Nations Convention against Cybercrime. Right? Please remember this. Please remember this can be asked in the UPSC preliminary examination. Because as such, There is a lot of discussion that is happening in the context of digital scams which are taking place in India. But the problem is, when you talk about the digital scams, right, it is one aspect of cybercrime, by the way. Cybercrime can be including hacking activity, can include pornography, especially child pornography. It can include financial scams, etc. The problem is, these kind of scams or these kind of crimes happen across the border. That is, somebody who is committing a crime will be sitting in one country and the crime would be committed in another country. So when this kind of a issue arises, that is, the perpetrator is sitting across the border and the crime is committed in another country, you need cooperation between both of these particular countries' authorities in terms of collection of evidence, in terms of giving access to evidence, in terms of giving information, sharing of information, so that the right action and timely action can be undertaken. Everybody is able to understand the logic? Very simple logic, by the way. Now, there was a earlier convention, Budapest Convention. There was earlier a Budapest Convention. And this particular convention, back in the year 2001, brought in multiple countries, basically led by European Union countries, right? Basically led by European Union countries. It brought together more than 70 countries which are signatories or the parties to the Budapest Convention. But the problem with the Budapest Convention, which is also against cybercrime, this is also against cybercrime, is the fact that this convention is not inclusive of all the countries. It doesn't include all the countries. It is not a global, right, let's say global agency driven initiative. Whereas this one that I've written earlier, United Nations Convention Against Cybercrime, the UN members are parties to that. The negotiations have been conducted. The private sector companies have been consulted. Multiple rounds of consultations have taken place, because the resolution regarding this was introduced by Russia back in the year 2017. So understand the logic here. Initially, the Budapest Convention was introduced. Multiple countries are parties to that. And before you ask me, India is not a party to Budapest Convention. India is not a signatory to the Budapest Convention. Now, India stayed away. Russia was not included. China was not included. But this was one initiative which had more than 70 countries as parties to the convention, which is against cybercrime. 2017, resolution was introduced by Russia. Multiple rounds of consultation, negotiations have taken place. In 2024, the United Nations General Assembly officially adopted this convention. The United Nations General Assembly officially adopted. And in 2025, the convention was opened for signing. And I'm pretty sure all of you know the process. When the convention opens for signing, the member countries of UN first will sign, then ratify. Is it okay? First they will sign and then ratify. And once you meet certain minimum threshold of ratifications, then the convention automatically becomes implemented. It becomes applicable for the member countries. So more than 70 countries have signed this particular convention, that is UNCC. I'll start using the short form. More than 70 countries have signed the UNCC. India is yet to sign. So we are expecting more than 40 countries to ratify this. After that, this will come into force. But in addition to India not signing, there are multiple countries which have opposed the convention. Look at this. Which have opposed the convention. They have opposed the United Nations Convention Against Cybercrime. Why? For example, India. India is worried that once the provisions of the convention will be implemented, there could be certain friction between the local laws that we have. For example, we have digital protection laws which have been framed by the government, and the provisions under this could come in conflict with the provisions which are present in the UNCC. That is the first one. Second one, many of the provisions which were proposed by India earlier during negotiations, right? Under the UN convention, many proposals were put forward by Indian side. These have not been accepted. In many cases, the definitions which have been provided are very, very vague. And that is the reason India has not signed it so far. And USA is worried that the definitions, because they're very vague, very ambiguous, multiple countries, for example, China or Russia for that matter, might use this to target adversaries, use this to target, right, certain politicians, right, whom they don't like, might use this to target a certain, let's say, journalist, etc. So multiple countries or multiple authorities have raised voice against the United Nations Convention against Cyber Crime. Everybody is okay now. This is one aspect of the discussion. Now there is a second aspect of the discussion, that is a global governance crisis. Global governance crisis. What this represents, that is countries not accepting the United Nations Convention on Cyber Crime, what this represents is a symptom of a bigger problem. This is not the only time when the member countries have opposed something that is actually required. All of you, I hope you understand this. The countries are opposing something that is actually required. You require this convention. Of course, yes, there can be tweaking of the provision, right? The interest of all the parties should be taken care. Yes, of course, yes. But do we require this kind of a convention which will facilitate coordination, cooperation amongst all the member countries, which will provide 24/7 support, which will ensure that the data will be stored, data will be shared across the member countries whenever such crimes will happen? Of course, yes, you require that. But this kind of a fracture amongst the member countries of United Nations is basically a symbol of the larger problem, that is the global governance. Multiple groups have started emanating now. Multiple groups have started taking center stage. The best example is what has happened between United States of America as well as European Union. Once these were one of the closest allies, USA and Canada, closest allies. Now you can see the fracturing that is happening. And this is evident in terms of trade. It is evident in terms of World Trade Organization as well. Even in WTO, there is a dispute settlement body under WTO. And because the dispute settlement body has one more authority, one more entity under this, that is appellate body, because USA has been opposing the appointment to the members to the appellate body. The appellate body has become dysfunctional. There is nobody in the appellate body right now. And as a result of this, the dispute settlement body also has become dysfunctional. And the dispute settlement body at one point of time was considered as a crown jewel. I hope you understand. Was once considered a crown jewel of WTO. Now this particular crown jewel has become dysfunctional. Everybody is able to understand? So multiple power centers are arising. China and Russia are looking at this particular situation and they're trying to introduce new kind of, right, let's say the new kind of the statements, new kind of, let's say, the allegiances, new kind of provisions, new kind of discussions they want to introduce under United Nations, under WTO. China has tried that under WTO and Russia has become successful by introducing this kind of resolution in United Nations. So new types of power centers are arising. And when this kind of a fracture continues and fracture increases, no doubt we will move towards a new world order. Yes, we are going to move towards a new world order. But the churning that will take place, the damage that would do to some of the countries during the process will be a greater cost to pay. Everybody is okay, right? So these are the two aspects which are discussed in this article. Global governance crisis. Done. Now, MCQ. Consider the following statements. India is the signatory of the Budapest Convention and the UN Convention on Cyber Crime. India is not, by the way. I've told you this. India is not a signatory of both of them. The Hanoi Convention was adopted in 2024. A lot of you will basically say, sir, what is Hanoi Convention? You spoke about UNCC, but you have written Hanoi Convention. The United Nations Convention on Cyber Crime, the other name of this is the Hanoi Convention. Done? It is a Hanoi Convention. So second statement is correct. UN Convention on Cybercrime supports a universal cybercrime framework. Like I said, right, all the member countries will be brought together. There will be, right, a sharing of information, capacity building will be provided by the United Nations, etc. Yes, third statement is also correct. Right option for the question will be option B. Only two of the three statements are true. Now let's go forward. Uproar intensifies against new UGC equity regulations. New UGC equity regulations. Now, what is this? Right? The new UGC equity regulations. Listen to me carefully. Earlier, the UGC has introduced or had introduced a set of rules or the framework back in the year 2012. Let's go point by point. Right? This basically is equity regulation, right? Or, right, essentially it is to ensure no discrimination, anti-discrimination measures would be implemented. So earlier in 2012, a set of framework or the rules was implemented. Despite having a framework, it was seen that certain type of discrimination has been done against certain candidates or certain students. And, right, we have also seen many students committing suicides, right, dropping out, right, multiple police cases being filed, etc. So after Supreme Court of India asked UGC to strengthen the guidelines, now the UGC starting from January 13 has introduced a new framework, revised framework. Right, so new framework is essentially called as UGC Equity Regulations 2026. What is the importance of this regulation and why everybody is opposing? Understand the problem here. The framework has been implemented in order to avoid discrimination. Discrimination against whom? Against women. Discrimination based on race. Discrimination based on caste, place of birth, right, against disability, etc. So the framework has been implemented to protect these groups of students. Now, many of the students have opposed the new framework. And other people, that is the students belonging to other caste, they basically say this framework is, right, not going to protect us as well. That is, it is against our interest. So both of the sections of the students are actually opposing this particular framework. What is the issue here? What is the issue? Simple. One, what is, right, covered under anti-discrimination? Right? How many classes are covered under the anti-discrimination? There is an expansion. Earlier, under the anti-discrimination framework, the focus was more on protecting SC and ST students. Now, under the new anti-discrimination law or framework, the UGC has brought in even OBCs, other backward classes. It has brought in OBCs as well. They will also be protected under the new framework. But the problem is, many experts argue that, yes, you have included OBCs, you need to protect them against discrimination. Yes, that is correct. But at the same point of time, earlier there was a provision which protected the candidates in case of false cases. All of you are able to understand this? In case of false cases. And this is not just applicable to the UGC guideline. You must have seen in other areas as well, where, right, just they want to score the, want to settle the score. They want, right, let's say revenge, etc. They want to do harm to certain people. They will abuse the provisions under the different laws which are there to protect these people. So argument is, earlier there was a, right, let's say segment or there was a section which had punishment, which had certain provisions to protect and to penalize whenever there is a false case. Now the criticism is, this has been removed. This has been removed. And when you remove this particular provision, obviously there is a concern. What if, right, let's say the candidates will be afraid now because the provision of discrimination, anti-discrimination framework can be used to complain against anybody. It will create, right, let's say the tension, it will create a fear amongst the students, amongst, right, let's say the people who are studying in the colleges, universities, etc. That is one criticism. The second criticism is essentially this. The definitions which have been provided under the new framework, these are not clear. These are ambiguous. Lot of these particular definitions are ambiguous in nature. And because there is an ambiguity in lot of these definition, it is going to create lot of confusion. That is one more criticism. The third criticism is the kind of framework that has been introduced by the UGC. It is right more of a regulation in nature rather than protecting certain candidates, protecting the students against discrimination. This looks more like a regulation which is going to over-regulate the colleges, the universities, all of them which will come under the UGC regulation or UGC right coverage. That is the third criticism. And basically one more criticism is right the general candidates. Like I said earlier, the general candidates are basically saying that the provision which was there to protect us against fall cases, this particular provision now is absent. Right? This particular provision is absent, right? Which will basically give a free hand to certain people to allege discrimination, right? Because they will misuse the, right, let's say framework. Everybody is okay? So these are some of the reasons why there is a writ petition which has been filed in the Supreme Court now. There is a writ petition filed in the Supreme Court. The hearing will happen in the Supreme Court against the new UGC equity rules. Okay. What is UGC? UGC stands for University Grants Commission. UGC stands for University Grants Commission. Okay, let's go forward. Population and caste census. Method to count the caste during census not yet decided. What is the issue? What is the debate happening? The government has announced 16th population census. Correct? All of you okay? The government of India has announced a 16th population census which will begin from 1st April 2026. The population census will be conducted in 2 stages. In the first stage, we are going to go for house listing. All the houses will be listed. We are going to find out where people are residing, right? Which houses do not have people, just walls are there. What is the quality of the, right, let's say the house, right, whether the walls are there, right, etc., etc. So first phase will be house listing. And the second phase will be the population enumeration. P, population enumeration. This is point number 1. Now come to point number 2. When the enumerators, that is government officials, will go to different households and collect the data, there is basically a form which is given to all of them. They will have to collect the data according to the questionnaire or the questions or the columns which are given in the form. Now the contention is the government of India has announced the caste census as well. The government of India has announced caste census. There was a caste census which was conducted back in the year 2011. That is socio-economic caste census. But the SECC, socio-economic caste census, which was conducted back in 2011, it was conducted separately, right, from the population census. Population census separate, caste census separate. Now the government of India has announced the caste census will be part of the population census. That is, during the population census itself, we are going to collect the caste data as well. Right? This is basically the announcement of the government. Now the concern that has been raised by the multiple political parties is that the questionnaire, right? The questionnaire, that is the form where you need to collect the data from every household under the house listing operation. In that questionnaire, there is no detailed questions associated with, right, collection of caste data. Is everybody okay? Please do let me know. There is no, right, let's say separate questions which will help us in collecting different type of data associated with caste. That particular questions are not present as of now. So the political parties are asking, are you going to conduct the caste census or not? Right? Are you going to conduct the caste census or not? Right? In this particular process of population census. The officials have argued that right now we are focused only on the house listing operations. We will focus on house listing operation. The collection of data regarding caste, again detailed. Right now the questionnaire which has been published has only one question. Do you belong to scheduled caste or not, like this? Only one question. But the authorities have stated that the collection of data associated with the caste will only come in the second phase. Not in the first phase, in the second phase. And we have a lot of time for the second phase. We have a lot of time because we will start with the first phase, then we'll start the second phase. So because there is a time, the questionnaire will be updated. We are going to collect the caste data as well in the second phase of the population census. Is everybody okay? Pavinistri, is census and caste survey different? My dear, yes. Population census will basically give you data regarding how many people are there. Whereas the caste census will tell you how many people will belong to SC, ST, OBC, right, etc. And this has been done earlier by the government, because I hope you understand. You want to apply for a central government job. You want to claim quota. You want to claim caste. Right? The ST list that is maintained, OBC list that is maintained with the center, the OBC list could be different compared to the state list. So I hope you understand. You need caste census for that. Okay. So consider the following statements regarding population census. The upcoming census will be the 16th population census. Yes. All the population census held so far in India have been conducted by the Registrar General and the Census Commissioner. A lot of you will say yes to the second statement. No. Please understand. Second statement is incorrect. Lot of you are saying option B. All the population census held so far in India have been conducted by the Registrar General. No. This is the 16th census. Correct? This is the 16th census. Which also means you understand that the census was conducted even before independence. Correct? It was conducted even before independence. This authority, that is Registrar General of India and the Census Commissioner, is set up in 1951. This authority is set up in 1951. So obviously earlier, what was done? Whenever the census used to be conducted, an office used to be set up by the government before 1951. But 1951, we have this office, this entity has been set up, which functions under Ministry of Home Affairs. MHA. It functions under Ministry of Home Affairs. The above authority functions under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Incorrect. Right option for the question is option A, only one. Now let's go forward. 2 articles associated with Canada. 2 articles associated with Canada. One says Canadian Prime Minister Mr. Carney is likely to visit India in the month of March. And second article, right, Canada has basically stated that it is not looking to sign a free trade agreement with China. Why? Yesterday I told you this. The President of USA, Mr. Donald Trump, has threatened that if Canada will sign a trade agreement with China, he will target Canada and impose 100% tariff. So what are the important points? Important points. Point number 1, Canadian PM likely to visit India in the month of March. What is the importance? Point number 1, listen to me. The earlier Prime Minister, Mr. Justin Trudeau, when he was in the office, the relations between India and Canada, right, took a beating, took a hit because of multiple statements, allegations that were done by the earlier Prime Minister. But with the new Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, coming to the office, the first thing after the elections, when the global meet was held, that is G7 meet was held, Mr. Carney extended the invitation to the Prime Minister of India. That was considered as the initiative or basically a step taken by Canada to normalize the relations between both the countries. And after this, now there is a talk of a Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA. Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, the negotiations are expected to start from the month of March. And that is where the visit of the Canadian Prime Minister will be important. And in addition to this, it is expected multiple other agreements would be signed in defense, that is security, in energy, in mineral supply, etc. So let's wait and see what will be the outcome of this particular visit. This is first article. Second article, why is USA worried so much and Canada is replying to USA? Reason is very simple. Until recently, understand this, until recently, the relations between Canada and China, right, were not very friendly. Reason is simple. USA, Mexico and Canada. USMC, right? All the three have signed an agreement, trade agreement, USMCA. United States, Mexico, Canada, USMCA trade agreement. This was signed in 2020, and earlier we had a NAFTA agreement and later it was a USMCA. Now this particular trade agreement is going to be up for renegotiation in this year. That is in the second half of this year, this is up for renegotiation. And generally what was followed was what USA follows, what kind of policy USA will follow towards China. Canada would simply follow that. Canada would simply emulate that. And why not? USA and Canada were one of the closest allies back then. Very close allies. So the trade, when you talk about the trade, when Mr. Donald Trump became the president in the second term, he slapped tariffs on China. That was essentially followed by Canada as well. Canada at one point of time had imposed 100% tariff on cars that were coming from China. 100% tariff. And in retaliation, China also targeted the canola exports of the Canada into China and slapped a very high amount of tariffs on this. Right? How much? China targeted canola and slapped 85% tariffs. But what has happened in recent times? With the kind of friction that is happening between Canada and USA, the Canadian Prime Minister some time ago, hardly 2 weeks ago, visited China. And that is when all these particular issues came up for discussion. Canada agreed to reduce the tariffs on the car. From 100%, the tariffs were reduced to 6.1%. Understand? From 100%, tariffs were brought down to 6.1%. That is the MFN rate. And the amount of cars which were allowed to flow into Canada under this particular new arrangement, 49,000 cars were allowed to be imported from China into Canada. And in reciprocation, China also agreed to reduce the tariff on canola exports, right, that were brought into China. From 85%, the tariff was reduced to 15% by China. Now this particular information was absorbed by the USA government. USA government looked at this and simply said they are trying to sign a trade agreement. And that is the reason the USA president basically stated that if China and Canada will sign a trade agreement, then he is going to slap 100% tariffs on Canada. And Canadian government now, or the Prime Minister has clarified, they have no interest in signing the agreement. It is just, basically some part of the trade, the relaxations have been provided by both of the countries. Okay, everybody is okay with the discussion? Next article, RBI debt situation of the states. What has the RBI report stated now? Simple points. In the last couple of years, there is a rising concern regarding the rising debt of the states. Many of the states, for example, Kerala, Himachal Pradesh, etc., they are into problem. They are facing a problem. What is the problem? They are spending too much compared to the income they are earning. And that is indicated by the debt ratio, that is the debt to GDP ratio of the states. The debt to gross state domestic product, by the way. Okay. And under the FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management. Under the FRBM Act, the debt to GDP ratio for the states is to be kept at 20%. I hope you understand. It is to be maintained at 20%, maximum 20%. And this is a question to all of you who are present in the live and later who are going to watch a recorded session. What is the debt limit for the center under the FRBM law? Do let me know. What is the limit for the center? Right? So under FRBM, the states are supposed to maintain 20% of the gross state domestic product. What is the RBI report stating now? RBI report is simply stating, although there is a criticism of the central government in the context of many of the states that they are not following or they are not implementing the policies to reduce expenditure, they are unnecessarily spending more, etc. It is not correct in lot of these opposition ruled states. In lot of these particular opposition ruled states which are going for elections, they have implemented policies in order to control the expenditure. They've implemented policies which can be referred to as prudent policies, fiscally prudent policies. That is, any policy which will ensure that the finances of the government are sustainable are called as a fiscally prudent policies. Done? So this is what the report of Reserve Bank of India states. Now, last two articles, just an update. Russia-Ukraine peace deal. The negotiations are taking place in UAE, Saudi Arabia, not UAE, Saudi Arabia. The negotiations of the parties, that is Ukraine, Russia, as well as USA. The parties are meeting or have met, right? Couple of days ago, negotiations have taken place. It is stated that the peace deal is ready. The details are not yet out. It is stated that the peace deal is ready. According to this particular peace deal, right, the USA is going to provide security guarantees. We have been discussing this multiple times. You should be aware of this by now. USA is going to provide security guarantees for Ukraine in case Russia attacks. In addition to this, Ukraine has also stated that by 2027 they want to be part of the European Union. Right? So the argument now is all these particular provisions are there in the peace deal. The other two sides, that is Russia is yet to sign this particular deal. USA government is yet to give the approval. But before that, in the coming days, one more round of negotiations are going to take place again at the same place, that is Saudi Arabia. Done? So this is an update associated with the peace deal. And the last article for today, India, European Union close in on FTA negotiations conclude. Right? Yesterday we have discussed this. Just an update now. Today, the European Council or European Union summit is going to be held. Right? India European summit is going to be held. The first summit was held back in the year 2000. Right? So understand, the European India summit is held now, 16th summit. The first summit was held back in the year 2000. The agreement, right, would be signed. I'm pretty sure by the time I'm discussing, it would be signed by both of the parties. But don't worry, right? The implementation will take time. Right? Apart from that, same thing that we have discussed yesterday. Same thing, right? A Republic Day, the European heads, right, are present as the chief guest, etc., etc. Same thing, again, repetition. Apart from the summit, nothing else is new in the article. Done? Right? So these are certain important articles, concepts, as well as the questions I wanted to discuss with you people in today's session. If you have liked the discussion, do not forget to hit the like button. Do not worry about the PPT. After the session is over, the PPT would be uploaded. Now, before I wind and take up your questions, right, before I wind up the discussion, just make one correction. Yesterday, there was one question on India and UAE. Right? In that particular question, I said UAE is a member of G20. UAE is a participant, not a member. Please make that particular correction. Right? Now, any questions, any doubts associated with what I've discussed so far, please do let me know. Any doubts, any questions? Done. So that's it from my side in today's session. Right? Buckle up now. Any day, that is on 29th, the day after tomorrow, economic survey will be published. And on Sunday, right, the budget would be announced. So be ready. Lot of information, especially from the Indian economy subject, will keep on coming towards your way. Okay. Right. So that's it from my side. Take care. Have a great day. Right. See you next time in the Hindu News Analysis.